Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you're here for today's webinar on Sage Intacct Construction, presented by Misty Pallett. We'll begin in a couple of minutes, so hang tight and we'll be with you soon.
Need some intro music, Don. Play some Jeopardy.
The bottom of the hour, and welcome to everyone who's joining us over the lunch hour. We're going to be talking about Sage Intacct Construction Management. But before we get into that, let me go through a little bit of housekeeping for today, just so that you know what to expect. If you are here for CPE credit, and we are offering CPE credit for today's webinar, in order to be eligible for a certificate, you must answer all poll questions. That's our proof to NASBA that you were participating throughout the online webinar. The other thing that I want to tell you is that following the webinar, you'll be receiving at least one, but possibly two emails. The first email will come from me, Dawn Westerberg, and it will contain a copy of the slides that you'll see today in the presentation, as well as a recording of today's presentation, and a link to a readiness survey. So please allow up to 48 hours to get that email from me. And if you are here for CPE credit, again, I want to emphasize, please answer all poll questions. That is managed by one of our sister companies, and they ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive that certificate. So first email coming from me within 2 days. The second email, if you're eligible, is a CPE certificate coming in at least within the next 2 weeks. If you don't receive your CPE certificate within 2 weeks, I've got my contact information there. Get in touch with me and I'll chase that down. So without any further ado, I'm really pleased to announce construction industry veteran Misty Pallett. Misty Pallett joined our team recently and is a seasoned construction industry expert, and she holds many certifications in Sage Intacct for construction. And it just goes without saying, she has over 25 years of experience in the Sage ecosystem. We are really excited to have her on our team. And at this point, I'll turn it over to the expert. It goes over to you, Misty.
Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. And thanks, Don, for the warm introduction. So as Don mentioned, I've been around the block in construction, and I'm here today to hopefully help you understand when it's time for your organization to make migration to the cloud. So here's our learning objectives for today. So help you recognize the signs for when it's time to migrate, better understand the benefits of Sage Intacct Construction, what's the impact of using outdated systems on your bottom line, and we'll see today how Sage Intacct can grow with you, making growing pains less painful. And then, of course, we will have a solution presentation of Sage Intacct today. So we have a lot to cover, and let's jump right in with a poll question. We only have a few of those today, well, 4 actually. So again, to Don's point, to get your CPE credits, you need to answer the poll questions. So we're going to start off with a poll question of, how often do delays in financial reporting or project tracking disrupt your business decisions? Now, all of our poll questions today are really focused around, helping you decide when it's time for you to migrate. If you haven't noticed, maybe, and you've been in the industry a long time, about every 20 years we go through a product life cycle. And so now we're seeing this in the construction space really heavily of people moving to the cloud. And so we're hoping to prepare you today through today's presentation to help you understand of when is it time for you to migrate. And how would you know that? So if everybody could answer this poll, of if you've never impacted decisions have never been impacted by your financial reporting delays, I would be very surprised if anybody picked that. But maybe that's the I don't know kind of answer. Happy to, we're going to be talking all about, migrating to the cloud today. So if you can answer the poll question, that'd be great.
All right, I'm going to give this a few more moments just to make sure that everybody has a chance. I always get a little nervous on these first poll questions because I don't want anyone missing out on their CPE opportunity. So I'll be closing this down in just a few seconds.
And just so you know, this is the question I typically hear first from clients who are preparing to migrate. Their financial reporting just isn't enough to make timely decisions. So we'll be talking all about that today too. For sure. Okay, so we got a lot of good feedback here. This is always good. It occasionally cause delays. That's kind of the medium answer, which is totally expected. I would expect that, many companies are kind of right on the verge, and we're going to talk all about that today. So let's jump into our next slide here. Okay, so as you can see here and read here, that Sage Intacct for Construction isn't in the title of my slide. And so you could be wondering, are you in the right place? And I can assure you that you are. But let me start with a little bit of background. So Sage Intacct was built from the ground up in the cloud, starting with its first line of code in 1999. You heard that right, 1999. So Sage Intacct is not a new product, but Sage acquired Intacct around 2017. And I believe they were recognizing the potential of cloud technology to support the transition of several of their legacy and still very valuable products like Sage 300 CRE and Sage 100 Contractor. Now, while those legacy products remain reliable, they've been around for many, many years. They will continue to be supported for many, many years and many users. But they are part of the story that I want to tell today. So when Sage acquired Intacct, they combined their expertise of Sage 300 CRE developers with Intacct's team to create what we know and love as Sage Intacct Construction now. So it's been amazing to see this product evolve over the last 5 years. And while Sage Intacct is not new, the bolt-on construction module that we'll be presenting today is really ever evolving. And they recently launched another module or a product called Sage Construction Management, which makes this a complete construction developed product. So Sage Construction Management provides that operational project management tools going beyond the capabilities of Sage Intacct's very strong financial background to give deep insights into your products. And we will dive deeper into the details of Sage Construction Management in a dedicated webinar in December. So stay tuned for that. I just want to mention it here because it really does answer a lot of the project management questions we get on the construction side. And you can see here that Sage Intacct has many accolades, and with the construction edition, the sky is truly the limit. I'm so excited for this product and have really gotten involved over the last 5 years in Sage Intacct Construction and have just been floored by how Sage has handled the migration of many of their legacy clients, as well as new clients who are interested in moving to the cloud with a stronger financial backbone that is necessary for construction industry. Okay, time for our second poll question. We're going to run through these slides. I promise not to PowerPoint you to death, and we'll make sure we get as much time as we can in the actual product so you can see it for yourself. So, second poll question, are you finding it difficult to keep up with your company's growth and increase in project complexity? So are you struggling? Are you handling growth with some challenges? Maybe you're fully supported. I would find that unusual, but if you were using a Sage legacy product like Sage 300, which has been around for 50 years, I might add, maybe you have all of your ducks in a row. You have your business processes down, you know exactly how everything works, everything is working with you, but maybe you're starting to see other people go to the cloud and you wonder for yourself, is that the right answer? So, hopefully we can answer some of those questions today. So, and now that you kind of I've told you what Sage Intacct is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about LBMC Technology Solutions when this poll question is finished.
And I'm going to close it up right now. Just a
Okay.
few more moments if someone wants to quickly answer.
Wonderful. That's, about medium, I'd say 50-50. Some were unsure, but that's a great poll there. We have 43% of yes, finding it difficult to, keep up with the growth of their company. Hey, life is ever changing, and especially in the construction industry, we are building those changes day in and day out. So that's totally expected. Okay. So I'm not here to read slides to you, and I'm sure you can handle that all on your own, but I want to make a key point about LBMC. Sometimes the team you choose is as important, if not more so, than the software itself. I often say that, and I really want it to sink in for you. So I want you to think about it. If you've gone through a software implementation before, you know it's never going to be perfect. And the challenges you faced weren't just about the software. They were about effective change management and the people driving the project forward. It's those people that make the difference, guiding the implementation and ensuring its success. So as you can see here, LBMC Technology Solutions has plenty of practice in this. We are a trusted partner who will be with you for the long haul. We totally understand your challenges that you're going to face and have faced, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Okay, third of the fourth poll questions. I hope y'all are getting excited now. I'm trying to build anticipation until we get to Sage Intacct, my favorite part. Okay, so how dependent are you on manual processes or spreadsheets? Now, I promise this is a judgment-free question. Nobody will be judged based on your dependence upon Excel, because guess what? I love Excel too. I totally understand, why people use Excel. It's just easy, it's familiar, it's comfortable. But what are you, putting your company at risk about if you are reliant on these manual processes? I always, think about Intacct, especially thinking about the ways that it can automate life. And I tease, but I'm also kind of serious that we're here to give you some vacation time, meaning that we're going to automate your processes so well within Intacct, if you choose to move to Intacct, that you'll have time to have that work-life balance. So I think that is a really, great way to think about it, is being efficient as you possibly can so that you can have that good balance.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the poll question and share the results.
And hopefully you guys can see where we're going with some of these questions. We're just trying to figure out, where you are at in your journey and help you identify where you're at in your journey so you know what you need to do next. We have an outstanding 85% at yes, they are dependent on manual processes. This is typically what we see a lot of, for sure. It's not just about the softwares that they're using, but it's also about their processes, and maybe they're outdated or they've outgrown them, or maybe the knowledge has left the company because, we are reaching that age in our society where many older generations are retiring and leaving it to the next generation, and that next generation has to figure out how to move it forward. So,
Misty, we've had a question come up in the Q&A, and the question is there a migration path from Sage 100 Contractor to this?
I think it depends on your situation. And I would say that as an accountant, listen, it depends, right? But I think it's really important to know that LBMC, the partner that, the VAR partner that we have a path that is clearly stated and would be customized a little bit to you and what your needs are. It's not very difficult to migrate from one product to the next. It's more about how much historical data do you want to bring over? How do you have to change your business process review, to mimic what you were doing in the old system in the new system? So there's not a clear path for anybody. One size doesn't fit everybody, in my opinion. I think it's customized based on the client's needs and, where they are at in their process, how they do things internally, and then how can we get them to the end of that journey where they're using a different ERP system. But good question. Any other questions I need to answer before we move on?
Nope, that's the only one so far.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a very shortened list, and the reason it is shortened list is because, really what we're asking or telling you is that, who is Sage Intacct Construction really ideal for? And there are many industries that can benefit from LBMC. In fact, being that Intacct has been around since 1999, we have, I would guess, thousands of nonprofits on the product, healthcare providers, and many of the nonprofits actually use the construction module because they have construction jobs too. So while you might not see your specific kind of company on this list, this is really LBMC's target market for Sage Intacct Construction, and we have proof cases that we have seen great success with these kinds of companies, but that doesn't mean that you're limited if your kind of company is not on this list. So we obviously have general contractors, industrial building. This is a vast definition also, so many things could fall under general contractors, not just these few things, and there's even now heavy civil is not on here, but I know Sage Intacct is making some improvements for heavy civil construction to be on the list. That doesn't mean it can't work for that, but this is where we've seen the greatest success in the last 5 years of types of company that Sage Intacct Construction is really good for. So I just don't want you to think this is it, there's nothing else, but there absolutely is something else. But this is what we've seen great success, and we have case studies to prove that it is successful in these areas of construction. Okay, so my favorite part of the show is coming to Sage Intacct. I'm going to pull over an internet browser here, and we're going to jump right in. And this is meant to be interactive, so if you want to use the Q&A to ask questions, Donna's our moderator here, and she can, chime in and stop me. But I'm going to try to spend as much time as I can in the product. So what we're looking at here.
Well, speaking of Q&A, we had one come in right as you said that.
Perfect.
We are a service provider, building maintenance, HVAC, etc. We currently use Sage 100C and the service receivable module with the SFO remote app. Does Sage Intacct Construction have similar functionality?
Yes, it does. And actually, we integrate fully with Sage Field Operations now, which is the service operations. So, your setup might be a little bit different because as we talk through Sage Intacct today, you're going to learn a little bit more about dimensional accounting. And so some of that structure might change if you transition to Sage Intacct instead of Sage 100 Contractor. So Sage service operations or field operations absolutely does integrate into Intacct, and it does a really nice job of that, but you might have to change some of your business process review. And just so you know, I am very familiar with Sage 100 Contractor. I've been in that product for about 25 years, absolutely love it. There are so many cool things in that functionality, so I'm very familiar with the service receivable module. Happy to provide support if we need to on that end as well. However, our main focus is Sage Intacct. Okay, so we are looking at, I'm in Google Chrome, right, as my browser of choice. So Sage Intacct is browser agnostic, and so we could use any browser that we decided to choose. And I've mentioned this before, there's hardly a time that I've noticed in the past 5 years where, Sage has been down and you haven't been able to log in. That rarely happens. So when you think about going to the cloud, I want you to think about first and foremost, how it will change what you're doing now. You're not hosting a on-prem solution in the cloud. For those of you who are on Sage 100 Contractor or even Sage 300, there's a product called MyCRE or SwissNet or Visio or Right Networks. There's many of those hosting solutions, and they get the job done of being able to host an on-prem product in the cloud so that you can access it from anywhere. Where Sage Intacct was built in the cloud, so it's just a website that you log into. And so while I'm on that topic, you'll note that I am logged in as Emma the controller. And Emma, the controller, has all the security clearance necessary inside of these couple environments that we're going to look at today. And the reason I like to log in as her is because we can see everything, we can drill down, we can make transactions, we can do all of that functionality with Emma's user. So Sage Intacct does have enterprise level security, which means you are always in control as to who can see what, when, where, and how. And that is done through user roles that are then applied to users. So it is very easy to maintain that and really get, down to the nitty gritty of who can see what. And we have that functionality in Sage Legacy products, or, even QuickBooks Online has some of that functionality. But I will say that Sage Intacct is, SOC compliant, and they are recommended by the AICPA, who are the folks that wrote the book on accounting. Just so you know, we are very secure, and your data is secure, backed up in the cloud. So you no longer have to worry about doing those server backups. You no longer have to worry about doing software upgrades. So when you're considering, moving or migrating to a cloud product, I want you to think and do the comparison between having a server, even if it's a virtual server, how much that costs you, how much it costs you to have a consultant come in and do your software upgrades. And also, just the time that you would be saving by, switching to a cloud product like Sage Intacct. So we are looking at a dashboard here today. This is a role-based dashboard, a CFO dashboard. And you'll notice that it's very colorful. There's lots of charts on here. That's one of the reasons I like to showcase this, because it's not just about looking at numbers and being able to determine that. It's also helpful to see it in a, pie chart or a bar chart, so that you could kind of tell just based on color how you're doing as a company. I like to think of dashboards as, just as the dashboard in my car. Do I have any flat tire lights coming on, or low fuel, or how about check engine lights? You want to know that for your company as well. So being able to look at a dashboard like this would give you those indicators to determine, how you are doing financially as a company. And I stress the financial part because we are going to look a little bit at the project management part and the operational side here when we get into the construction environment. But I just want to stress that dashboards are customizable. There are several that come canned with the system. You can have as many as you want, and they can be user or global. So they can be user defined, meaning this dashboard only Emma can see. But you might have a project manager dashboard that only a project manager can see. So you decide, you're always in control of who can see what, when, where, and how. These dashboards are very easy to create. These are called KPI cards up here at the top, and I can move things around real easily, switching the layout if I want to. That does affect globally, so if there were other people viewing this dashboard, they would be able to see the shift and the change as well. What I really like to stress about this is live data. So often in like a Sage Legacy product, we're used to running a query or running a report. So dashboards kind of replace both of those things. And this is live data. So if somebody made a transaction in the background that affected the cost of goods sold, this dashboard would update every 30 seconds. If you were truly impatient, you could just hit refresh on your Google Chrome browser and it would refresh. So this isn't running a query, and it's not, running a report and then bringing it back to the dashboard. This is live data at all times. And so that helps you do two things. First of all, trust your data, because you're not relying on, does it show up in the report or not? No, it's going to be there because it's live data. And the second part is it accurate, up to date? So depending on, your filters that you apply to the dashboard, obviously, it would be up to date as to that date that you select. So this brings me to the next part of my conversation about dimensional accounting. Now, in Sage Legacy products, or even, QuickBooks Online, any ERP system is going to have some form of dimensions. They don't call them dimensions. And so we need to have a little bit of a conversation around what is a dimension versus just what we're used to. So what we're used to is jobs. We might be used to cost codes or extras as cost types, but we're definitely used to some dimensions like vendors, customers, employees, probably departments, maybe class, locations, entities. So those are all dimensions inside of Sage Intacct. And what those dimensions do is they really help you segregate your data. So I'm going to demonstrate that by clicking on this admin. So you'll see also as I scroll over things, numbers are coming up. Now this only happens because I am logged in as Emma, and she has a security clearance to see that. But I'm going to click down on this admin pie chart, and I'm going to go right to the root source. So I'm going to keep clicking until I get to the journal entry. So this is a journal entry inside of Sage Intacct. And you'll notice here, I've got my base account, and that's a standard chart of accounts, and which we are going to talk about when we get to multi-entity. And you'll notice that I also have location, department, channel, project. And if I drop the shade, as we call it, you'll see customer, vendor, employee, item, warehouse, asset. And when we get into construction, we have cost code and cost type. So these are all of the dimensions that you can tag on every single line item of any transaction. Now, don't let that overwhelm you, because you can create dimensional relationships to speed up that process too. Like you can align a project with a department and a location, so that every time you pick that project, it automatically puts it to that department and that location. So thinking about, how the dimensional accounting works, I'm going to come back out here to our dashboard, and you'll notice that I only have one dimensional filter. But if I wanted to see just one location, for example, I'm going to pick on Boston. Now you're going to watch all my numbers change. And it usually takes about less than 15 seconds to update, because it's going out to the system and it's looking for that dimension. So I like to think about, the chart of accounts is one dimension. It's the base dimension. And then we're used to maybe having a -02 for department and 03 for location. Well, we've replaced that in Intacct with a dimension. So I like to think of dimensions as kind of a subledger to the general ledger. Just so you know. So you saw all my numbers changed. And now if I clicked on this admin and I went down, it's only $653, because it's filtered out anything that's not Boston. So it's not showing anything except for Boston, which is the filter I chose. So you saw that happen real time pretty quickly. No more running reports, and I always think of dashboards as a great way to provide self-reliance for your project managers, for your stakeholders, for your board members. You could give them a login where they could see their own dashboard, and you no longer have to run those reports. Now, you can certainly run reports, and you can certainly schedule reports, and you can do all of those things. But dashboards, kind of are the future, so that we can look at things holistically and see everything from the top level down. So that brings me to multi-entity. And you're going to hear me say this a couple times today, but I tease that Intacct stands for intercompany accounting. It really stands for internet accounting, but it's so good at intercompany accounting. So this is a multi-entity environment. Now, if you only have one entity, that's great, that's fine. But the idea is that it can scale and grow with your company so that you don't outgrow it. So if you are one entity today, but maybe you're considering acquiring another business, or maybe you're a developer and you have to have separate tax IDs, which means separate entities for each one of those plots of land that you purchase, Intacct is really good at handling that multi-entity accounting. So you can see we have 3 entities in here today. Boston was a location, but my entities, I could run that by entity as well, 1, 2, and 3. So what that means is, from a top level down, if you think of it like a big umbrella, it's covering all those entities. And I can transact at the top level, which is very, very powerful. So if I come over here to the reports, I'm going to show you this real quick. First, I want to step back and talk about the dimensions just a little bit more so you can understand. So this is the report center. There are 2 report centers that come with construction, and we're hopefully going to have time to talk about that. But you'll notice that we have lots of canned reports. It's very easy to create a new report. You can schedule reports, all of those things. But you'll notice that we have a profit and loss for almost every dimension that I mentioned. So we've got class, customer, employee, item, project, location, department, all of those dimensions that I mentioned. And so I've preloaded this. It does happen very quickly, but I wanted everything to go smooth today. So I preloaded some of these tabs, but you can see here, this is a profit and loss by location. And this is the power of dimensional accounting, okay? So it's showing us all of our locations or entities across the top, and then it's adding them all up over here. Now, I didn't do anything special for this report. It is a canned report, and the reason it works is because of that dimensional accounting. If I were to drill down on Boston, I'm just going to see whatever is in that general ledger for Boston. These came from sales invoices. So you could drill down into accounts receivable and actually see those invoices. So it does have drill down capabilities only if you have security clearance to do that. So, you can limit what people are seeing. I always like to stress that. And these reports are customizable. You can collapse and expand on these reports. You can export them to Excel. Again, you can email them right out of the system if you want to. You can schedule those reports. Do all those things with reports. But this, I've never seen in another product, and without a lot of hassle, for that multi-entity environment and that multi-dimensional environment, you're able to segregate all of your data into the reports that help you make faster, better decisions. Because at the end of the day, that's really what this is about, is being able to be as efficient as you can and then make informed decisions based on the data and trust the data. Trust the data is accurate and to the best of anybody's ability. Okay. So moving into intercompany, and I realize I'm going really fast, guys, but we do have a lot to cover. So moving into intercompany, I want to show you a journal entry. So you'll note that I'm at the top level, and remember, I have 3 entities in this environment. And at the top level, this is a journal entry. So I am able to allocate to my different entities, locations, departments, channels, classes, vendors, all of those dimensions I keep mentioning, I'm able to allocate from the top level out. So I'm able to broadcast a transaction across any dimension that I want to. And what that really helps you do is run those segregated reports or dashboards, being able to really look at the data and go, okay, by department, how much money am I making? By project, how much money am I making? Which projects are, ready to go awry? And which ones do I need to, press the gas to the floor or slam on the brakes? So you'll be able to tell that information based on your data because of this dimensional accounting. So if we're at the top level and you look here, we have $950 going to one entity, which is this entity 100. And if I slide down into that entity, also to note, with entities, you can control which users can see those entities, how those users can interact with different entities. Can they transact at the top level? What can be seen from what entity? You're in control of all of that. But this journal entry at the entity level, you'll notice it's one line. So I did that journal entry one time at the top level, meaning all those intercompany things that you are doing day to day that's causing you heartache and heartburn, you could do that at the top level and allocate it wherever, whatever dimension you want to choose. And that would give you that segregated good reporting at the end of the day, because you want to be able to make informed and valuable decisions, but you have to trust the data in order to be able to feel confident with that decision. Okay, any questions with that so far? I know it's a tremendous amount of stuff to talk about in a short amount of time.
Things come in so far, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Wonderful. Okay, we're going to switch over to a construction environment. And you'll notice it looks the same, right? And if I go back here to the home environment, this is just a distribution environment. You'll notice I have all the modules, all the standard culprits, and even then some. So I do have fixed assets, inventory, time and material, or time and expenses, sorry. You notice I have all sorts of different modules I can choose from. In construction, exactly the same, except for we have construction bolted onto this projects costing and billing module. So to give you a little history, Intacct has always had projects costing and billing because every industry probably known to man has projects of some kind. And many of those organizations want to keep track of their projects. How are they doing on those projects? How much are they spending? How much have they billed? What's the contract look like? What do the change orders look like? So with construction, you get a little bit more. So we've always had projects costing and billing, great module for those, companies that aren't really construction related. But with construction, you're bolting on retainage, change management, and project contracts. So there is another contracts module, not to be confused with project contracts, which is specific to construction. So I like to think of projects, just as a triangle. And I'm going to look at this dashboard here so you can look at this while I'm talking. But projects have a triangle structure. So at the top, you have your project. Over to the left, you're going to have your estimate for a project, a budget. And then over to the right, you're going to have your project contract. And in the middle, you're going to have commitments. So this dashboard, it tells us many things. This is through 2022. So it's, we do have current data in here, but I like this one because it's got a lot of data in 2022. So you can see, where you are as a company whole. Now this is pulling up to that umbrella, all the jobs, all the entities, all the locations, all the departments, all the dimensions that we've been talking about. It's pulling it up into one dashboard. So you could see your whole organization just with the one dashboard at the top level. Now, if you want to get more granular, you certainly can. We can filter by projects. We can set one up for each project manager. We can maybe just look at hotels, for example. So if I, choose that filter, you're going to see all my numbers change. Now you'll notice some things on here that are not monetary. So Sage Intacct does have something called statistical accounts. And you can set this up to automate to say, okay, every time I change a project status, from estimate or bid to active, I want you to count me one. And I want you to put it on this dashboard. So I know at any point of time, how many active jobs I have. And so we're looking at hotels right now. So we only have one active job for hotels, but you'll notice we have two listed down here. So this project overview is a great, I call it a work in process report. It tells you everything you need to know and then some. And I say and then some because I've never seen a WIP report with commitments on it in all of my years of construction, and I love it. It's so cool to have your commitments on there because while it's important to know what your estimated gross profit is, it's also important to know of the budget, how much have you committed to subcontractors and material suppliers? Or maybe you call them something else. Some people call them subcontracts and purchase orders. So we get to design that with you of how you operate as far as, what do you call your commitments? How do they work? How do they get posted? What's your three-way match on your purchasing? All of that, we get to help you figure out what's the best business process for you and set up, we get to customize that for you. And that's how Sage Intacct, just so you know, it does work out of the box, right? But there's a lot of configuration settings that we get to do as consultants that help you, kind of mimic what you were doing, because not often are you, sometimes you don't want to change, right? Change is hard for everybody. I get it. I like change personally, but it is hard for everybody. So, if you're used to doing something a certain way, we can try to mimic that in Intacct for you. But often, sometimes you just have to change your ways also, and you have to grow with the process. But I want you to know that Intacct is, fully customizable. LBMC actually has a full development team too. So if you're like, I wanted to do this thing, then we can absolutely talk through those things of how much does that cost to develop? Is it really worth it? All those things get talked about in a situation like that. But, pulling it out of the box, Intacct is very capable of handling, the financial project management side. And I say financial because there is that product called Sage Construction Management, which is really powerful for project management. And there's also Sage Field Operations, right, for the service folks. And sometimes those are both. That's a package deal that you get with some construction companies. They'll have a service practice and then they'll also have construction projects. And, Sage Intacct obviously can handle the financial side very easily, works very well for everything you need financially. Sometimes it's a struggle for project managers without having Sage Construction Management to do really good project management in here. So one thing I will mention too, many companies use a product called Procore, or they might use Red Team. There's many project management operational softwares out there, Builder Trend. There's a vast marketplace with Sage Intacct that allows for integration. And so Sage Intacct has a very open architecture, which I felt with, some of the legacy products, it's hard to import things, or you can't, connect the two don't talk. And then you end up duplicating your data entry, and that becomes frustrating and leaves room for risk. So, Sage Intacct has an open architecture, which means it can integrate with a lot of different products. And if all else fails and you just can't get the two to integrate, then you can just import it. So we do have import functionality. I'll pop back over here just real quick. These are all of the things that you can import into Intacct. So, it just depends on your situation, but the list is long, and that's because of the open architecture. So I just want to stress that real quick. So coming back to this, so this dashboard, this project overview is kind of a whip report. Then you're going to look at some segmented reports by dimensions. So you can have project management, same report, but by project manager. So we can see Doug Moffett has one job. And you know what? I'm going to switch this back to all projects again so we can just kind of see who else do we have project managers here. So we've got Dennis Sanford's got a couple jobs. Doug Moffett's got a couple jobs. John has a couple jobs. And you can see we have some fun color coding, you know, if it's, you know, going to go in the negative for gross profit. But you can segregate the data by dimensions. And so these are some dimensions I didn't even mention. Actually, PM is an employee, which is a dimension. So it gets aligned with a project and then you can pull that out. Same with job type, right? We have job type or job status that we can pull out from a project level. We're able to segregate all those different data points on those different dimensions. You can see we have a backlog report. This is just a standard profit and loss by job type. So restaurants, hotels across the top. And then we have profitability for restaurants. So you can just see here the capabilities of Intacct are pretty vast because of that dimensional accounting. It's so important to understand what dimensional accounting brings to the table, how you can slice and dice your data and get, you know, the data that you need on the reports that you need to make valuable decisions. And dashboards are, you know, they can be user specific or they can be global again. You can print them, it's not pretty. You can email them, you could copy them if you wanted to, but most likely you're going to give somebody a user of some kind so they can log in and self-serve. So they can log in, see their own job information. You don't have to run all these reports. You can certainly do that. If you want to schedule a 5 a.m. AP report for a job, absolutely, you can do that. But I think the idea behind dashboards is really providing that self-reliance so that people can log in and see their own stuff. Now, there is always a conversation with, you know, do we let our project managers into Sage Intacct? Absolutely, you can. You can limit what they can see. You're always in control of that. But maybe Sage Construction Management might be a better solution. And we are going to have a webinar in December on that specific product. It is comparable to Procore. So if you are using Procore, I suggest you come and see what we have to offer. And it's fully integrated into Intacct. So all of your project contracts come over, your project change orders, everything but paying bills and receiving money can come over to Intacct. So you don't have to have project managers in your financial software if you don't want them to be. And Sage Intacct can do all of those things. Again, if we look at the project dashboard, we see project estimates, which is your budget, project contracts, which is your contracts, like your AIA billing. It definitely does AIA billing, progress billing, or time and materials. They are working on unit billing. I don't think that's, I think it's supposed to come out this year, but they haven't quite got there yet. And you can see time and expenses, retainage, all these things are, you know, options for a project. So these are all the things you can do on a particular project. We're going to go down into an entity now. So this is the general contractor entity. So you can just see a list of the projects. And so many times it's not even necessary to run a job list, right? Because I can just come to my projects and I can set up custom views if I wanted to do that, to say estimated start, or I actually like show me all my projects by project manager. So this is grouped by project manager. And I could sort by project manager. So these lists are interactive and you could use these lists instead of querying information or looking at a drop down. You know, these are lists that just exist. You can export these lists. You'll see an import button almost everywhere because you can import jobs. Or if you're using a software like Sage Field Operations or Service Trade or any of those other integrated partners, you know, that will just automatically connect to Intacct and push your information over. So those syncs are set up based on, you know, your user preference and how you need them to be set up. Another thing I like to point out is that you can have child and grandchild and so on and so forth. I've tested this out. You can do at least 50 different, you know, child and subchild and subchild. And some construction companies really need that to be able to report effectively. You know, they might have phases of the job. You can roll that up, build to a job. I'm going to pop into a job real quick here because I don't want to spend too much time on here. The quick bowls, let's look at this one. So I like to think of a project as a filing cabinet, one job at a time. And then we have drawers underneath that filing cabinet that we can go look at. So we can look at, this is standard information on a job. We can look at the estimates. So you can have as many budgets under a job as you want. You only get one primary budget. So what that primary budget does is it says, this is the set budget for this job, so that all of your WIP reports and all of those, the functionality behind, why is it a budget important? So important for revenue recognition, that you have to have a budget. Otherwise, how do you know how you're doing on a job? Very important, but I want to note that you can have as many as you want in here. Now, if we went and looked at an estimate, you can see here, we'll just make this bigger. Here becomes our schedule of values. So this is by cost code, by cost type. You can even align a vendor here. There is not functionality to create your commitments from here, but it's pretty easy to export this, massage the data, and then import to all your commitments. That's also an option. So there's lots of ways to get things done quickly inside of Sage Intacct instead of doing it all manual. Lots to think about there. So this is becomes your schedule of values, which sometimes mimics your project contracts. So if we pop over here to project contracts and we look at quick bowls again, we're going to look at the lines for this. This mimics probably our schedule of values from the budget, except for the total revised price is probably marked up, unless you're doing cost plus. So, this project contract, which gets billed against and is always evaluated. So if I go back and I look at the Quick Bowls contract, you can have as many contracts underneath there as you wish also. You'll notice that here's my original price, here's my approved change orders. Change orders are always three-way, right? Prime, budget, and sub. So you do have three ways of doing change orders. They affect three different things. And then you have, how much is billed against this. You can look at the billing details and you'll be able to see all of those contract invoices. And so if we drill down on a contract invoice, you're going to notice, let's see if we have this set up right. It might look like an AIA, it might not. I haven't tested this yet. But the forms are totally customizable. So it does look like an AIA. So here's our schedule of values. Here's our summary. And we got a little change order table. And then here's our schedule of values down here at the bottom. These are completely customizable to you. You can upload, forms that come canned with the system or change them however you need to. And we would help you through that process for sure. So just so you know, you can do AIA billing through here, but you can also do T&M, totally possible. And you could do, so any transaction that you mark as billable, then you could pull into a T&M invoice. So throughout the system using time cards, expenses, even journal entries. If you're like, I want to make sure the customer gets billed for this journal entry, absolutely. You can even bill for purchase orders. If you haven't received that AP bill yet, you could, mark a purchase order as billable and pull it into a AIA billing or a T&M billing. And that way you account for it before you've received the bill. Sometimes that does happen. Okay, I don't want to run out of time. Are there any questions, before?
There are. I
Oh,
do have a question for you, Misty. And the question is, what is the difference between Sage 300 Timberline and Sage Intacct Construction?
Right. So, they're vast different. They're very, very different. They're two totally separate products. It's just that they're both owned by Sage. Sage has about 30 different flavors of Sage. Some are construction focused, some are not construction focused at all. So it just depends on, Sage is really good at purchasing really nice products and then making them better, putting their name on them and then making them better for the industry. So they are two totally separate products, not related other than they have the word Sage on them. Sage Timberline or Sage 300 CRE is a fabulous product, has been around for about 50 years, does a really nice job of getting everything done. I like to consider Intacct as the next generation of Sage. That's how I like to say it. Like I said, about every 20 years, we go through a product life cycle, and some companies decide to go that way, and some companies don't. So, it's sort of a preference of your company, but I do know that many of the new products that are coming out, like Procore or Sage Field Operations, those are all cloud-based. And so if you think about it, why is your ERP not cloud-based? And cloud-based doesn't mean just hosted on the cloud, but true cloud software. So Intacct is that next generation true cloud software platform that can integrate with all of your other new toys. Hopefully that
So we've got a couple more questions that have come in. We currently use Microsoft Great Plains. We have found it to be very unforgiving if a mistake is made, user error, often requiring the help of our accountant or even LBMC to correct. Are mistakes easier to correct in Sage for those of us who aren't accountants?
I think it depends on the configuration. And I would say that because you can configure the system to allow for anybody to make changes. Or you could configure the system to, you don't want to change your general ledger. That is very important in the accounting world, is you don't want to change your general ledger, especially if it's been closed. So say you post an AP invoice and then you realize, oh, I messed that up, I need to go fix it. It's up to you on the configuration settings, whether you can fix it as an end user or your finance team needs to fix it. So it's configuration based. That question is configuration based, depends on your configuration and how you want it set up. It is very easy to change things. For example, if I just go to the accounts payable bills, for example, you'll notice that everything sort of looks the same. It doesn't, and actually I might want to go to the top level. Hold on just a second, because a lot of these bills might live at the top level. There's many ways to get information in here. You'll notice that we have some that were imported. We can email them right in. But if your configuration is set up properly and the bill has not been paid, it's easy to come in here and just change it. Oops, I put it to the wrong cost code. Oops, I put it to the wrong job. You could easily change that if the bill had not been paid, if your configurations were set as such. So hopefully that answers that.
All right. And then the last question I have is there a built-in CRM?
Great question. I do know that Sage Intacct integrates with some CRMs. I would say the answer is no. It's not built in, but like it integrates with Salesforce. I know it might even integrate with like Zoho. So you could integrate the products. Intacct is very flexible in that regard as far as an integration, and there might be already one built, but it doesn't have a native internal CRM per se. Now, Sage Construction Management has a little bit of that. It's not like Salesforce by any means, but it does have leads, and you're able to track those leads and if they get turned into projects and analyze that information. Good questions. I like this crowd. Any more, Don?
Nope, that's it for now.
Wonderful. Okay, the last thing I'll mention real quick here is that we do have that interactive custom report writer. So we have the financial reports, which I showed you before. This is the financial reports, and it comes with many CAN systems. Very easy using the wizard to create a new report. That's not a problem. The ICRW is a lot more complex, and so this uses SQL and Java to create these reports. They're also much more elaborate. So you can have if statements in there, you can hard code some things, you can, prepare SQL statements to say, I'm going to take this table and join them together and do a calculation based on that summation of the two different tables built together. So you have a lot more functionality with the custom reports, or the interactive custom report writer. However, typically you don't get to build those reports. We build those for you, or and you tell us what you want, we build those for you, because the report writer where you would actually build those reports is incredibly complex and very expensive. So we typically help you with those custom reports. But know that, so this has 99 canned reports right now. Sage always releases a package for us to install with construction clients that has a lot of really good already built ICRW reports. And so they look a little bit different. Like if we just looked at project build cost by customer, for example, you're going to notice that it's a little bit slower because it has a lot more complexity involved in it. So we're going to let this bake for just a second and see if it'll let me pick a job. So the filters look different. It's just a different way of looking at it. We can just pick on a customer. Sure, why not? And I don't know if we'll get anything, but I just want you to know that the interactive custom report writer is there. You can run canned reports. You can have custom reports built by us. You know, all of that is an option, and we didn't get anything. But those reports are just very complex. And so if you're not getting what you need from the financial reports, we can help you with an interactive custom report. So just wanted you to know that. Okay, any questions about Intacct? We have covered so much stuff today. It's been awesome. I'm going to move that out of the way here and come back to our PowerPoint. So let's see. So I know that was a brief presentation. I just want to remind you of, you know, when is it time? When are you thinking about, are you feeling some of these pain points? Because these are the pain points that we hear most often, you know. I like to think of Family Feud, you know, multi-entity is probably number one, reporting is probably number two. If we took a poll of the communities out there to say, what are you struggling with, you know? And so hopefully these points will really help you evaluate, am I ready to go to the cloud? Do I want to go to the cloud? Is it worth going to the cloud? You know, because change is never easy. I would never lie about that. You know, change is hard, and there is a migration path. It's just dependent on you and how you need to operate, how you need to get there. And most of the time that has to do with historical information, because it's not just a, you know, mapping exercise that we go, oh, here's all your data, map it, done, we're done. It's not like that. You know, we have to go through some great pains to map that old data into the new data, but there are options for sure. It's just dependent on, do you want to do that or not? So hopefully you know, saw some of these things live today and it really helped you understand this. Let's see, we've got one more poll question, and I know we're going to run out of time. So if you'll post that poll question. Okay, so how would you rate your access to real-time data for financial and project decision making? Really important.
Sorry, we got the poll question that is in there, and I apologize, Misty, I got it wrong. But one of the things that LBMC Technology Solutions offers is what we call a lunch and learn all about you. And today we learned all about construction. And so with this poll question, if you would like for you and maybe a couple of members of your team who are thinking about, Misty's been talking about readiness and do I want to go to the cloud? Do I not want to go to the cloud? Do I want to investigate how this particular solution is different from what I currently have? We are more than happy to have a lunch and learn with you, and we'll bring you together with one of our experts. And as I mentioned, whoever on your team would be sort of the go-to leaders of managing the change, and talk about what, you know, what that would entail, what you would want to prepare for, what's in store, you know, what are the challenges, but then also what are the benefits on the other side. And chances are you're probably going to be talking to Misty during that lunch. So please take a look at this and let us know if you would be interested.
Great idea, for sure. We're happy. So, you know, our call to action, if you can still see my screen here, is just, you know, kind of that, to say, listen for those pain points. You know, at your organization, you're probably experiencing some of these, I would gather, or you have experienced them in the past. And we're happy to, you know, talk to you, do this lunch and learn all about you. Happy to you know, there are no silly questions. I promise you, this is a judgment-free zone. I'm very passionate about helping as many people as I can. And you're going to stay involved throughout the entire process. This is your company, right? You're the one that has to live and breathe this every single day after we're done with an implementation. We're not going to implement and run away. We're going to be there for the long haul, but this is your company. You have to do the work. So, you know, you will stay involved from start to finish. It will be designed in the way that you want it designed and what works for you. So very, very good. And as a closeout, I just want to say, you know, we're happy to do a business process review with you. If you are interested in that, you know, we'd be happy to give you a discount because you attended today's webinar. And you could reach out to myself or Eddie Finley, who is our sales manager. We'll happily talk to you and you know, see if you're ready. You know, maybe you just need a little bit of help of push over the edge and say, yep, we're ready. We're going to do it. Awesome. Any other questions?
No, I'm not seeing any other questions come in. The two webinars that Misty has pulled up here on the screen, in the chat, I've put links to the registration for both of those. The real estate webinar is a short 30-minute webinar. The Sage Construction Management that Misty referenced earlier is a full hour, and we will be offering CPE credit for Sage Construction Management.
Right, and so hopefully in our follow-up email, Dawn, those links might be in there.
They will. We'll
What?
make sure that they're in there.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're running out of time, so I want to say a big thank you for joining us today. It really means a lot to me that all of you were here, and feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.